Welcome back, everybody. In a few minutes, SK is going to play Gambit in our second semi-final of the day. But first, we have a great video feature for you. Now, our players, they travel weekly or they move to Cologne to compete here at the highest level. And we asked them how important the support of their family and friends is to them. Check it out.
For me, it's really important having the family near.
Because it helps you get through the darker times when you are losing or you are in a slump, and everyone needs that.
Friends and family is really important to have in situations like this when it's not going too well for you.
They support you no matter what you're going through, then it's really, really awesome, and it definitely helps.
Like, I have my brother and mother at home. They've been watching close to every LCS match I've played.
After every single time I lose, I get a text from my mum, and she's like unlucky, keep your head up, like look to the next one.
Between the games, you can always talk with them, you can always relax with them. Also, when you're in the game, you can draw motivation from them.
Sometimes when he plays like solo queue, I sit next to him or behind him and watch him, and usually I do criticize him a bit about map awareness because he's greedy sometimes.
Je suis très content. Et là, c'est la première fois que je ne pensais pas que mon fils arrivait de jouer si loin comme ça.
Yeah, when my brother told me he was going to be a pro gamer, I really didn't believe him. It's fun to have my family around. It's the first time I'm visiting Nono since he's here. I haven't had much time before with holidays and stuff, and
Lo sigo siempre, porque me gusta mucho el ambiente que hay creado y luego que como tienen mucha suerte jugando, juegan muy bien, para mí es un placer el verlo.
me and my big brother, we were like, we're going to support you and to tell the parents that you're good and you should go in the tournament, etc.
It was nice because I didn't want to go on pro gaming because I was scared about my future and my studies and stuff. And they just say, yeah, just go, live your dream.
Great feature. And now it is, of course, time to introduce our teams for the second semi-final of the day, starting off with Gambit. On support, securing kills, top, bottom, and mid, it's Edward. On AD carry, known for his perfect misfortune ults, Genja. On mid, one of the best Kha'Zix players in the world, Alex Ish. In the jungle, your all-star jungler, Diamond Prox. And he has been rock solid for Gambit in the top lane, Darian. And on the other side, of course, we have SK Gaming in the top lane. Rumble, Irelia, or Shen, he holds his own in the top lane. It's Kevin. And then the French jungler known for his awesome ganks and winks, Hercubot. In the mid, Spanish Fury and team captain Ocelots. Then the AD carry with the highest KDA here, Candy Panda. And finally, perfecting support Elise here in the European LCS, Nif. Great atmosphere here in the studio, and your casters for this match are Joe Miller and Trevor Quickshot Henry. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Sharks, and welcome back to our casting desk here for our second semi-final of the European LCS Spring Split Playoffs. Easy for me to say. Our next game coming up is, of course, the second seed Gambit taking on SK. Now, it's without a doubt going to be a tough one here for SK Gaming, as their record this season against Gambit really proves. They did, however, record that terrific win over Gambit in Week 9. Kevin, in particular, died only one time in that game. That result, as well, ended a woeful record on LAN against the Russians. Gambit, however, have no less than 4 members in the All-Star voting, with Genja, of course, being the unlucky one who missed out due to that 3-player ruling. Had a ropey end to the season, but they've been training hard here in Cologne for a full week, and that will surely do them wonders today.
Especially when you think back to all the Intel Extreme Masters, how they boot camp before every single LAN. So as you mentioned already, Gambit do have a series lead against SK Gaming of 3-1 in the spring split of the LCS, but historically have been able to deal with Ocelot and his crew. Up until that Week 9 defeat, Gambit had built up a great offline record against SK, managing to accrue more than 10 LAN victories in a row. Ocelot and his team, however, have improved greatly over the last few weeks, and their statistics in the LCS represent that. So their team currently holds the KDA lead over every other team in the LCS at 5.27, and they hold first and second highest KDA for individual players with Hercubot and Candy Panda respectively. Gambit, however, are hot on their heels with 4.28 KDA and third and fourth spot on individual players with their bottom lane or top lane or duo lane of Genja and Edward. Finally, Gambit, however, they have shown an ability to earn more gold per minute. That's 1,000 GPM than their opponent's SK, and this can be attested to the additional 70 CS per minute of farm they're able to get ahead. And finally, as Joe mentioned earlier, their win against Gambit, this is SK's win in Week 9, was so incredibly one-sided, and SK will be looking to replicate that matchup here today.
I am supposed to be the stat man. You stole that from me today, the honor of being the stat man. But it's all
There's
good.
a lot of stats.
As long as you guys know them, that's the whole point. And of course, you can find them all over on lesports.com. Don't forget that. Let's get in depth then on our teams and take a look at their key players, starting with Gambit's top laner, Darian. Now, Darian has a bit of a habit of getting caught out when split pushing, which a team like SK are gonna have to capitalize on. He's the only member of Gambit, of course, which didn't win their respective all-star votes as well.
Heavy words, but also very, very true words. Darian is a player that excels at drawing attention away from his teammates, and this is clearly shown in the amount of deaths he has. He has the second highest amount of deaths out of all top laners with 106. That's 30 or 40 more than the likes of Kevin and Soaz. However, all of those deaths, they are not without consequences. Oftentimes, Darian will be caught and allow Gambit to secure dragons, to secure towers, to secure objectives. And regardless of those deaths, Darian still manages to stay relevant by holding the third highest assists and gold per minute out of all EU top laners. So imagine if he was alive a lot more, how much higher those stats would be. So for the playoffs, do expect him to play Renekton, Shen, or Elise because he's played those champions in 20 out of his 28 season games, having won 5 out of 8 games with the Crocodile, 7 out of 7 with the Ninja, and 5 out of 5 with the Spider. And obviously, you can expect him to do very, very well on the champions that he's comfortable with.
And for SK Gaming then, their impact jungler, Hercubot, he was the highest KDA in Europe when coming into the playoffs and actually ranks 3rd overall if you include the North American LCS players into that as well. But he's not only a killing machine, he's died only 44 times in 28 games, which is a stat which, to be honest, shows that he is definitely one of the best around.
Yeah, that number is just insanely good, and he's an incredibly scary jungler that earns most of his gold from picking up kills from well-timed engagements. And in terms of, the statistics, as you've rightly pointed out, it's his ability to pick those fights and, more importantly, win them without giving up unnecessary deaths. This is by far his strongest ability, but he does fall off a little bit when it comes to looking at his gold per minute. He's 40 GPM behind the likes of Diamond Prox, his opposite number for this matchup. So if you think every 10 minutes, 400 gold, that's roughly a Ruby Crystal, that's some big statistics differently. So out of Hercubot's many junglers, Volibear, Jarvan, and Nasus are his go-to champions. And we got to talk about the KDA, which each of them. Statman Joe, he's filled me full of numbers here. Volibear, he's won 5 out of 6 games with an 8.9 KDA. On Jarvan, he's won 4 out of 5 games with a 14 KDA. And on Nasus, he's won 3 out of 4 with a 9.3 KDA. I really cannot stress enough how impressive those numbers are when you consider that's across 28 games against the best teams in Europe. And finally, he is one of the primary initiators for SK, so the pressure will be on Hercubot's shoulders to get the game rolling in SK Gaming's favor. He was able to do it 2 weeks ago. Can he do it again during the playoffs?
Well, that's the question that we're going to find out here over this next best of 3. However, we have seen 2 very different faces to SK and Gambit this season, with some amazing, but also some lackluster performances. We managed to catch up with the teams to see what they think about the game today, and maybe more importantly, which face they're going to be bringing to it.
I don't think Gambit lets anybody win. I think you got 2 kind of Gambit. Gambit A, they try hard and beat you. Gambit B, they don't try hard and they don't.
I think that SK are really good at the moment. It will be a really interesting game. They got some strategy, so we will try our best to win. So I think that we can handle it.
We are now against Gambit. If they play their best, we're going to have to sweat to take a game out of them.
I think facing Gambit is always a really hard game. Gambit has kind of a different playstyle compared to other teams, and it's always interesting to play against them.
If you fight against Gambit A, you're going to have to play 100% if you want to get a game out of them.
And Gambit Gaming are going to take down SK here.
I think that all matches were really one-sided. Our match against us that we lost was one-sided and SK won. And the match that all the matches we won, I think were one-sided too.
There was one game against Gambit, which we got totally destroyed.
That was hard matchup for Ocelot.
That game, I would have picked something different or play a little bit more careful and not that aggressive. The game would have been different, I think. But again, they are beatable, and that's why we are here, to beat them.
Some big words there from both teams, and we heard from Alexic his opinion that every game they've played has been one-sided for whichever team has won that one. So we'll see if that proves to be the case here. Of course, it is best of 3, just like the other semi-final and the quarterfinals for this one as well. And don't forget, you guys still have time to vote over on lolesports.com for the team which you think is going to win this second semi-final. You can get yourselves over there and make sure to get your votes in for that. We'll have a little bit of a look through later and see what the general consensus is onto this one. So we're going to be getting into Champion Select here in just a few moments. But what are your general thoughts on this one, Quick Shot? I mean, Gambit, we've said it before, they, in the last couple of weeks, didn't look to be the Gambit that we'd seen around that mid-season kind of period. We kind of thought it's because they've not had time to practice. They've been flying in and out of Germany, obviously from Russia. Some of the players having longer flights than others, and they didn't really have time to sit down, analyze what had gone right, what had gone wrong, and practice with those in. But now they've had this week here in Cologne. They've been playing up to 8 hours a day, as far as I've been aware. I've seen emails flying around where, and I know from the fact that Gambit are, I have actually been in the house here at the ESL TV studios. So, I mean, surely they're the favourites on paper coming in. They are the second seed after all.
No, they are. I mean, if you look at the track record, as we mentioned in the opening of the show, I believe the record was 0-for-11 before they gave up their first loss, which will make it 1 win for SK to 11 offline wins for Gambit, which puts them, you know, such a strong position. We think back to like European regionals last year at Gamescom, where SK and Gambit were scrimming really hard with one another. SK were able to take out EG at the time, CLG in the semifinals, but then just got crushed in the grand final by what was Moscow 5 and is now Gambit. So if they've been sitting down and they've been scrimming really hard, I wouldn't be surprised if one of two things happen. They're either going to come into this match and absolutely dominate, as they have been doing in the past, or they're going to try and formalize a game plan and try to implement some sort of strategy or composition that is now rigid and actually counterproductive. Because this is a team that's fluid. This is a team that reacts well, that makes decisions and actions based on what's happening in the game, as opposed to, dare I say, a team like Fnatic who think very hard about their compositions and really plan the champions that they're going to play for those early game engagements.
Well, I can tell you right now, according to lolesports.com and the fan voting that we've got, 73 to 26% in favor of Gambit right now. So a lot, well, obviously there's a bit of a number missing there. It's 73.5%, so, we're rounding up. Maths has never been my strongest point, as you've just obviously figured out. And Ocelot is also sporting a scarf, which I've not seen come out up until now.
I'm pretty sure that came off my dining room table. So that's where I think it's come from. I'm not convinced, personally. He does have more beautiful scarves elsewhere in that cupboard, but you know what? He's going to have some fun with it and pull this one out. So we'll see how this one pans out. But in terms of, what we're going to expect from this game, it is the #1 seed versus the #3. We did not see them yesterday. Obviously, SK, they have qualified for the semifinals. Gambit automatically seeded in here. And the last time that we've seen this matchup, this head-to-head, was, of course, week 9, where, SK, let's not beat around the bush, they destroyed Gambit in that game. And it was partially due to the way that they played. They picked engagements at the right time. They didn't, go foolishly aggressive, and it was always controlled. We are having a little bit of a stare down with the Spaniards.
Yeah, you see, you couldn't last long there. You had to look away. You started to feel a little bit awkward. Actually, we can see that that's actually Ocelot's parents who are in the house tonight for the games, and also the dog. Shushe's got a wolf, but Ocelot's dog is one of those that can take on a wolf. One of those small nippers.
I'll take your word for that
I've
one.
got one at home as well, and he challenges the biggest of dogs.
I will take your word for that one. We'll see whether or not they are going to be battling it out for this weekend. Unfortunately, Shushe is not here.
Yeah, he will, of course, be here next week for the summer promotion. We are just waiting for the players to get themselves ready for this one. It is pretty warm in the studio in there today. Soompi actually had a few problems with it earlier on. He was feeling a little bit ill, drinking tea in between games.
He's pretty under the weather at the moment.
Basically sweating to death in the studio earlier on here. But looks like Gambit are pretty much ready to go. It can't be that warm. They've still got hoodies on. Ocelot's still wearing his scarf. So
it's all the cool kid clothing. That's the real thing to talk about. But I definitely want to see what sort of compositions are going to come out in this particular series. We know that Gambit are not afraid to introduce new type of champions. They will tend to do champions that are or that could be considered very strong. Whereas SK Gaming, they're willing to play new champions as well, but theirs are a little bit more unique. You know, we think about Hercubot. He played Shaco at the qualifiers, and he played Pantheon in week 10. So I don't know if we're going to see anything quite that radical here, but they do have the possibilities. I even remember Kevin playing GP, if I recall correctly, this split. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I somehow expect that if we are going to be seeing some funky picks, that match number 1 is the time to bring it out. You've got the buffer then of that second and third game, but you can never underestimate getting off to a strong lead in the games, which we saw in our quarterfinal yesterday and in our semi-final earlier on today. That's how it went out, 1-1-1. Games went back and forth. So, a big win in this first game. We'll have to see. The picks and bans are obviously underway, and the bans coming out for Gambit. Twisted Fate aimed straight at Ocelot. It was, of course, a Twisted Fate which destroyed them in week 9. Yeah. NASA's taken away there against Hercubot. I wonder if they'll put a Jarvan ban in there as well. Maybe even first pick it away. But Kha'Zix and Shen for SK.
Zed and Thresh are still available as well. So SK Gaming are going to need to determine what is a bigger threat to them, giving away the likes of Zed or giving Thresh over to Edward. It's something that we've seen him play so much of in the past. Gambit, on the other hand, they're going to be deciding, do we want to take away Jarvan from Hercubot? And it does look like they're going to decide to do that. So Hercubot has been falling back to a number of other champions, and I want to see whether or not he's going to pull something new or unique out. Volibear is still available, and they've left Thresh through, and Elise as well.
Yeah, Thresh and Elise still in there. Elise is going to be locked straight in there for Darian. We talked about how well he actually did in that top lane with the Elise, so we could expect it to go there, of course. May see it in the jungle as well with Diamond.
And something that we want to talk about, Darian's Elise in particular, is when he was playing and they did the lane swaps a couple of weeks ago, he actually went for like a Ruby Sightstone. He started building some slightly different items that, synergize really well. Elise's base numbers are very good. In conjunction with that, having that Sightstone allows you to get vision, which means when you have 106 deaths, you can try and mitigate some of those. So, we'll see whether not in one game, but over the course of 28. So,
if it's in one game, you've got no chance, I'm afraid.
There's also the running joke that if Darian feeds, Gambit will win. That's also something that Reddit seem to believe.
That's part of the plan from the Russians. But either way, SK going to be picking their first 2, and it's going to be Rumble, a champion which Kevin has looked amazing on, and also Thresh, who wasn't banned in this one, and I kind of expected him when he's not banned to be in that first round of picks.
And of course, Rumble was the terror of Gambit in week 9 as well. Kevin was the only member of the team to actually give up deaths in that game. The rest of the team went completely unhindered as far as that is concerned. So we'll see how how they're going to plan this out. Right now, you've got a very good combo. The CC, the box to lock people in. We've made it through to the 5th pick, and Varus has still not been selected. So we'll see if Candy Pan is going to lock that in. We do know that Genja does prefer Misfortune. It's his most played champion throughout the spring split.
Yeah, Misfortune will be locked in, and we are going to be seeing Udyr in here as well for Diamond. And we mentioned this really before the Udyr rework, that he was, along with Makadza from Meet You Makers, pretty much in Europe the only 2 junglers that were really bringing Udyr to the table. Obviously, we have seen him pop up here and there a little bit since that remake, but interested to see what Diamond brings to the table here today.
And 3 flashes of brilliance as far as Udyr is concerned. In week 1, we've seen him, he did a flash over the wall, did like a 4-minute dragon, which was great. When we seen him at MLG Dallas a couple of weeks ago, if I remember correctly, he used it to great effect against the Korean teams, and it was a very, very good pick. Against this type of composition, I can see it working as well, as long as Thresh doesn't, get too involved. So what we do see, Zed is still available, as is Kale. It's something that we've seen a number of times. We've even seen Ocelot playing the likes of Cassidy as well as Ari. So, the world is their oyster, and as usual in SK fashion, they're leaving the last pick for Ocelot to secure.
Yeah, we've seen Nautilus and that Varus locked in. Right now, Gambit are hovering over that Blitzcrank. Edward thinking, well, if you're going to have Thresh, I'm going to show you can really do the pulls in this one. And maybe we'll see that one being locked in. But it looks like Zed will be that choice locked in there for Alex.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see Ocelot playing a Kale. It's something that we have seen a number of times before. It's something that they do like to run. If it does get locked in, we need to keep a very close eye on Ocelot's interventions. He does have a tendency to go down before using it, or not using it in the most ideal of situations. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible here, but it is something that we've called out over the couple of weeks that we've been seeing him playing it. The final lock-in, Edward is going back to Sona after hovering through a couple of different supports. So going back to the tried and trusted Sona.
Yeah, tried and trusted. That's where he first learned how to secure kills back in the day when Sona first came out. So, he is definitely one of the top Sona players. There's no question about that one. SK here then, down to their last pick. What are they going to go with against this Zed?
My guess is something like a Kale. They might even consider an Orianna. We've seen that yesterday from the Wolves. They felt that they could go that way. Or they can just throw me completely off and actually decide to go for a Karthus instead. So this was very unexpected, but it does add to all of the area of effect. If you get a good Nautilus ultimate plus Varus ulti, lock people in place, you put the Equalizer down, you put the Defile on, and you can tear through people. What I do like from SK's lineup that I don't see from Gambit's is a lot clearer forms of initiation. Gambit, they've got it all in. Zed's going to jump in there. Udia's going to run in there. Elise has to repel in or cocoon. And they're a lot more, all or nothing as far as team fights are concerned. A good dredge line or an ultimate from Nautilus or Equalizer, there's a lot stronger initiation tools for SK to work with.
Well, this is, of course, our first game of the best of 3. At least one more game coming up after this. We're, fingers crossed for a third and final game here today from this one as well. Don't forget, we will be coming with the third place playoff game plus the grand final for you tomorrow, and that grand final will be a best of 5, and we have Fnatic already waiting for the winner of SK versus Gambit. Will it be, first seed versus second, or will we see an El Clasico final here in the Spring Split playoffs? That would be sensational.
It would be sensational because El Clasico always delivers. But before we get to that, we need to get through this matchup, and I definitely think the laning phase is going to be very, very important. Happily for me, Edward is wearing the Muse Sona skin, which is his the most favorite one. And I definitely think that SK Gaming will be trying to do some lane shenanigans to swap them around. I don't think that Ocelot's going to want to go toe-to-toe with Alex. He's in very real threat of just being insta-jibbed and taken out. So that is something to consider. But we heard Ocelot talking in the preview video. He was saying, I should have played things differently the last time we faced off. And if he's learned from previous mistakes, maybe he's going to be happy to go 1v1.
I think that's an attribute that every player needs to have to admit, I pretty much sucked in that and I should have done something differently. And, at this level, these guys definitely are able to do that one. So we're going to jump into game then. Of course, it is Gambit taking on SK Gaming, the second semi-final of the LCS Europe Spring Split playoffs. How are we going to see this one go down? Talk us through the level 1 action.
So, level 1, both teams have relatively good level 1s, but SK's is borderline more powerful because of the fact that they've got a little bit more hard CC that they can rely on. If somebody like Diamondprox had to start with a bear stance, for example, or Darren had to go cocoon, they could get some down, but it's very reliant. So, what you do see is SK playing very defensive at the start. If he's going to place an early ward down, he's going to be able to just back away. But there's a number of Gambit members around. They've got vision on SK, and they're just waiting for the moves to happen.
Well, as you can see there, Diamond has already gone Phoenix, so that puts a stop to the whole stun from the start out of the Udyr coming in. See a couple of early wards there. SK going to be warding down at the bottom of the river and also at the midway point there in that Death Brush.
Taking a look at the champions and the summoner spells, Ocelot has gone with an exhaust, so he is going to be looking to go 1v1 against Alex if he can make that happen. The positioning for Gambit right now doesn't signal anything for sure. The duo laner could go mid, and the duo lanes could go bottom at this time. So we'll see once the minions camps have spawned where they decide to position themselves.
Well, it looks like from SK's point of view, we will see the duo lane in that top side of the map with Candy Panda and Nif coming up here just to help things off. Hercubot has been starting pretty regularly with these golems first in the jungle.
Yeah, just making sure they get that additional CS, sharing it with the duo laners, and then moving down towards red and getting a good pull onto that one. So I like the idea. It's something we're actually seeing more of out of the pro teams, is sharing the first spawn experience around. And it's a lot of teams doing this, taking the Wolves, the Wraiths. You can see that Darian's Elise, he took the Wolf camp. You can see Kevin's Rumble, he took his Wolf camp. And it's just, you know, sharing the love between your teammates at the moment.
And Diamond Proc's pretty much all on his Jack Jones there. He had to use his smite to take that red buff away. So he's not going to have that up and available when he moves over to the blue side of the map. Down in this bottom lane, though, talk us through, you know, these 1v2s. Who do you think is going to have the stronger 1v2 lane out of Darian's Elise or Kevin's Rumble?
So it's going to be fairly difficult to call based on the fact that they both have, you know, pros and cons to them. But Darian's going to be safer. With Darian's Cocoon, that's going to lock somebody up, as well as ability to repel to safety, it's going to be a lot more valuable than a damage shield from Kevin. Kevin's going to take poke from Sona and from Misfortune. Once he tries to CS, he's going to take double ups. He's going to take a few power chords. And, you know, that's something that Darian's Elise will have the benefit of being able to avoid. In addition, Elise has sustain, built in with those little spiderlings and her W. So she can actually heal back some additional HP. And we can see that Kevin, he started with that red pot. He's a little bit afraid of being jumped on or being ganked. And that red pot's going to give him a little bit of extra safety.
Yeah, we have seen in the past, though, Kevin's ability to really come out, not ahead, obviously, of the duo lane, but when you compare it over to the other single guy, we've seen his ability to come out on top of that situation and even get kills from those lanes as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. Diamond right now is waiting in the wings of that Tribush to stop any early aggression on the tower.
So this is something that's going to work out quite well for Diamond Prox. It pretty much guarantees that the 3-minute 30, the 4-minute gank does not happen, which is partially why he's here. And if he decides to stick around and take some lane tax, it just prevents all of that additional poke that a level 2 Darian's going to be taking from the likes of Varus and Thresh. You've got some very, very good early poke.
And also going to be nicely straight through, as we are going to see the flashes coming out. Alexic will flash away to safety there. Hercubot did try and get in there. Actually will land the dredge line in the end, but he's taking a lot of damage. Has to back away as Ocelot comes in. This puts a lay waste or two down to stop Alexic pushing in for that one. He did burn the elixir there, though, Alex.
Yeah, the elixir and the flash. So definite successful gank. If a good wall of pain lands, they're going to hook him, but Darian's been hooked.
Yeah, going to get hooked into this one. Is he going to be able to escape things? He does have a flash available, will be forced to use it. Repel's up in the air as well there, but he's gone very, very low from that one, but crucially survived. But again, he's got no flash.
Yeah, flash burn, so another great play out of the top lane. What Darian, I think, needed to do in that setup was actually use Repel to dodge the hook. If he had done that, he may have been able to avoid a little bit more damage. Instead, he took those Blighted Quiver stacks, he took the proc from Varus, as well as the Flay from Thresh. But nevertheless, very good start from SK Gaming. They've had small little, you know, plays that are working in their favor, burning the enemy summoner spells.
Yeah, the gold right now just tipped over in the balance for Gambit overall. So we are seeing the first couple of champions going back in there to buy things up. Carthus going to pick up that Ruby Crystal, and you'd imagine going to get straight up towards that Catalyst as early as he can to stay safe against Zed.
Yeah, going to be working towards that, just getting that additional HP and that sustain in lane. Allows him to spam out those little skittles as often as possible, and obviously regenerate any poke that he takes. In terms of the top laners, what we do see is Diamond Prox, let's be honest, is babysitting Darian quite extensively. He's been in this lane for a good 2 minutes, and in the mid lane, they're going in.
Yeah, I'm going to go in, but again, can't quite get the ground on Alexic, and they're trying to really capitalize on the fact that there is no flash there for Alexic. But again, there's no flash for Hercubot, which just the way that Zed works makes it hard for him to get in there anyway.
Yeah, especially because that Living Shadow is so powerful. It's effectively a 20-second flash that you can use at any time. So as long as Alex has that ability available, he will be able to jump to safety. See a very deep ward from Hercubot in and around the Wraith Bush, and some pings immediately on Diamond Prox saying, well, we know where he is, keep tabs on him, keep an idea on his CS, on his items, and make sure the lanes are aware of it.
Yeah, and he's actually just making a loop around right now. We'll put a ward of his own on that curve bush and maybe head down here towards this bottom lane. Hercubot, as we said, does know the positioning there of Diamond, so it looks like he's going to try and head that off.
So we'll see how this pans out. I've just taken a quick look at the rune page there for Genja, and he's running 24 armor penetration, followed by 8%. So a very, very heavy, armor penetration build, which makes me believe he may go for a lot of attack damage early and rely on his runes and his masteries to really help him get through any armor that's built up by SK. At the moment, we do see that Hercubot's hanging around in this bottom lane, and we've seen Nautilus ganks in the bottom lane pick up kills before. Yesterday, that was, of course, Evil Geniuses making that one work.
And thought he was going to back away there as he saw Udyr just crossing over that bush once again on the bottom side of the Gambit jungle, but Hercubot is still waiting there, so it looks like they're pretty committed to making something happen from this angle. The question is, can they get in and over that wall quick enough with Nautilus?
He should be able to get in there. He doesn't have flash, so we're not going to see any, flash dredgeline hooks, which is what he tried in the middle lane. But at the moment, just hanging around, going to be working towards most likely those boots of mobility, and we all get to giggle at the funny run animation. Right now, Kevin is just staying alive, and Hercubot's going to say, well, I've been here long enough, I want some of the CS.
Yep. Actually, Darien coming down to that middle lane there, so that's interesting, which could indicate that Gambit are already thinking here about going in towards a dragon.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would read it as well. Seeing how Diamondprox has played Udyr in the past, they do go fairly aggressive.
There and kill it.
Exactly.
Except he's got Ghost, so we'll just run in there and get it.
Well, he can run very, very quickly, especially with Ghost and with Bear Stance up. You do see he's going deep to maybe position some wards. He doesn't have any wards, so that's not even a possibility. Just getting the timer. So resetting the image, and what you'll notice is that little icon on the minimap will reset once it comes back to life. And as we see Darren, he's returned to the top lane. There's no vision for SK on this one, so they're actually going to have no idea that this dragon is going on right now.
Zed coming down to help things out here. Looks like Sona will join in as well. Diamond down to half HP already, so they're going to have to get the heals on it, maybe swap around a little bit of that damage coming in. And there is the dragon pickup by Gambit. That is a very, very early dragon coming in at 8 minutes and 22 seconds into the game. But we've come to expect that as well from Gambit.
This is something that we said, during the build-up for the show as well. Gambit, they control their objectives and their dragons. I would go so far as to say the best out of any team in Europe. I think their dragon control, their timing, their positioning, and just how the team generally roams when dragon is up is absolutely fantastic. So they pick up the first one. What it does mean is when it respawns in a couple of minutes' time, they'll be able to position some wards and go in for it. What we do see now is the Ninja is moving to the top lane, and we see Diamondprox positioning as well. They're jumping on.
Here we go. The Lantern is down. We are going to see Darien getting involved, and here comes Zed from the side. Candy Panda going to use barrier already. Won't be enough, though, and that's first blood, and Diamond now charging in. He's going to get the stun down onto Nif. Are they going to go for the tank? The Cocoon will miss. There's the Flay. Darien takes a tower hit, and Nif will stay alive for now, and here comes Carthus. Darien not going to fall to that one. Not quite enough damage.
Hercubot had flash as well. He was afraid of was the flash from Hercubot to jump in on him and then land the hook. So they baited it, so to speak, and unfortunately, first wrecking of the game doesn't secure anything.
Yeah, double hooks for SK. That's definitely a dangerous position to be in, that's for sure. As Ocelot, they put down a bit of damage onto that middle turret, while Alex Sitch was up in his top lane. Diamond now being the focus of the attention for Hercubot, and Nif, he will just try and dodge as much as he can from those skill shots coming out. In the end, they didn't even bother to go for it, and that will leave us at 1-0 for Gambit. 2,000 gold is their lead.
First blood did go to Alex, so we'll see when he decides to back off and actually spend that money. That's arguably one of the worst people to give it to if you are SK Gaming. Zeds that can insta-kill people are absolutely terrifying. 3,700 gold to the 2,700 of his lane opponent, but obviously hasn't spent that money just yet. If he decides to save to around 1,800, he can finish that blade pretty much immediately.
Speaking of saving, Genja right now sat on a fortune, almost 3,000 gold that he's got right now. Obviously, they can keep the pressure down onto Rumble this entire time, so doesn't need to back off and potentially miss any of that CS right now. But when he does go back, he's going to come back into the game with a lot more, as Alex may be in trouble here. That was a wall of pain and Living Shadow. See you later.
Yeah, just going to be able to hop away, get himself out of range. And talking about the amount of farm and gold that Genja has, it's because of the fact that they've had great vision down in this bottom lane. Alex has been caught.
And caught as in destroyed there from that one. And happened so quick that we didn't quite manage to get tabs on it there. And that is what SK were really looking for. That kill, of course, going over to Hercubot, who we talked earlier on about how many kills he picks up in games and how little deaths, maybe even more importantly. 44 from 28 games in the spring split.
Now, this is something I want to point out that's a little different from what we used to see from Hercubot. He's picked up a Philosopher's Stone first as one of his earliest items. This is very different to what we used to seeing out of junglers in the LCS, and Hercubot in particular is one of them. This immediately tells you we want to go to late game. This signals that I want to get as much gold as possible. I haven't rushed Boots of Mobility, so I don't want to gank quite as often. You know, usually he could have it by now. And it just signals we want to get to that powerful state where Varus will out-DPS MF, where Karthus will kill everybody, and where Rumble and Nautilus can survive anything that Gambit throws at them.
Yeah, but of course that first blood went over to Alex, so they're going to have to do a good job to hold on to that one if they want to get to that later stage. Actually, Alex did obviously have that lead in CS as well. That was caught up a little bit by Ocelot once Alex went home to pick up that Brutalizer to add it into the Cutlass that he already had a little bit earlier on. And we will see Ocelot coming back into lane with the Blasting One.
So he is going to almost have that Rod of Ages completed. Up in the top lane, Hercubot was sniffing around for a gank, but instead decides to just push down the lane with the rest of his teammates, and they pick up the first tower of the game. So Tower 1 does go to Gambit, and with that, they give themselves a little bit of a gold lead.
To SK.
To SK, sorry.
Close enough, because Gambit are going to take the second turret of the game here.
They even
down
out it.
in that bottom lane, as we are going to see Darren here getting hooked. Can he get away from this one? Actually, they didn't really react too much to that one in the end, and he will be completely fine. There is that turret going down for Gambit. And that kind of evens us up on the kills and the turrets, but of course not the gold. With that first blood, with the Dragon, it's 17.4 to 16.2 thousand, the lead for the Russians.
And Gambit will be respawning in a minute, so take a look at the vision that's coming down. We've seen Diamond Prox a moment ago putting a ward down on SK's blue buff. You see Edward moving on his pink ward, the Dragon, and there's some additional vision all over the place. So they're getting ready for that engagement, making sure they're aware of SK Gaming's timing and placement, and only Diamond Prox can get away with the recall in the middle of SK's jungle.
It's one of those moves that is so ridiculously ballsy that you just wouldn't expect it to be happening, you know? And I think that's what Diamond relies on a lot of the time, that, you know, he is quite willing to take those risks because he thinks no one will spot it. And if they're just walking over a ward in the river, and luckily for him, Diamond did recall earlier on because he would have definitely gone for him, I think, in that scenario. The red buff is up for Diamond right now. He's going to be taking that one away. He's currently got the CS lead over his opposite number, Nautilus. He is, however, too many H's in that one. A little bit behind in terms. Actually, that's this screen.
They're about even. They're about even. Yeah, they're about even.
See, Demon did that earlier. That's because this screen plays tricks on your eyes.
It does. It's a viewing angle, I think. But what it does mean, I want to touch on his level. Level 8, 4 points into Phoenix, 3 points into Turtle, and only the 1 in Bear. Dragon has respawned, and with all the vision that Gambit have right now, they've started this one very, very confidently. SK are around, and it looks like they want to pick this fight. Let's wait for this engagement. It's on Nif.
Yeah, Cocoon is going to land here on towards Nif. The box goes down, but look how quickly he's going to fall here. It's Darien that picks up the kill, and now Hercubot being chased down. There's a crescendo. Ocelot will have to flash away, but the Bear is in there, doing a lot of damage. Can they finish off Ocelot? It's Darien that's right in the middle. He's going to have to try and get away. Here comes the ultimate out of Karthus. It won't be enough to pick up kills. SK's still pretty low, but look at Nautilus charging in towards Diamond Prox here. Will they keep going with this one? Rumble zoned out of the fight on that top side, but there is the dredge line landing on towards Diamond. Can he escape from this one? There's a snipe from Candy Panda. The hail of arrows not got enough damage, and Gambit walk away with hardly any health.
1-for-1 trade at the end of that. 1 for 2 actually, because Nif went down as well. He failed flashed into the wall. I think the death mark would have still popped and killed him though. What it does mean is SK, if they can fix this Dragon or take it, losing 1 additional kill. They've jumped on Alex.
They've jumped on Alex here. They're going to pull him in towards Hercubot, and I was just thinking maybe not the best idea, but with the addition of Kevin to the fight, that will change things around. They don't chase because that Dragon is still available here for the taking. They're going to start that off. Genja going to use the bullet time over the top of the wall, and in the end, SK not worth the risk for them here.
Such great play there from Gambit at the end to force SK out, and they jumped onto SK as well. SK Gaming were not anticipating that level of go, go, go from Gambit, and that is what caught them out. They've put a pink ward down to clear out the vision that SK had, and now Gambit are going to restart this Dragon. But the Boots of Mobility Nautilus is running. He won't get there in time, though. And this is going to be Dragon number 2 going to Gambit, as well as those 2 kills from earlier.
Nice little boost for them. 22.7 to 19.7 thousand gold right now. Nice healthy 3k gold lead as we are going to see SK starting to push down middle here with 3 men. Nautilus, of course, got all the kills right now, all 2 of them, in fact, for SK Gaming. As we see them pushing it. Sorry, up there's the hook landing in onto Diamond, gets pulled in by the dredge line, but honestly, he's not the target that you want there.
So beefy. With the turtle stance, it blocks up to 150 damage of the auto attacks, and there was no real DPS sources there. You can see Varus was down in the bottom lane, you can see Rumble was up in the top lane, so didn't really pay out for them in that particular regard. But nevertheless, good combo. SK are just going to decide to back away from that one. It is still 1-1 in towers, and it's still a fairly slow-paced game, all things considered.
And not to mention the extra 500 health in there from that Spirit of the Ancient Golem that we've seen, actually from both junglers now. They've both gone up to that one. Obviously, Boots and Mobility done. We saw the Nautilus come sprinting down earlier on with his little short arms and short legs. Looks great, I love it. And now he's just waiting off in the wings, maybe trying to catch Darien out here. We talked about this in the pre-game, about how Darien sometimes finds himself in bad positions, as we are going to see the wall of pain come down. He will rappel away there onto the minions, though, and that will keep him safe.
That
Nicely
was
done.
Such great reaction times from Darien. He instantly repelled and then very quickly landed on the minion off to the side of the lane. So he didn't even use the dead time to hang in the air and just chill. What we do see is Hercubot was running to the top lane, thinking about going in, behind Alex, but obviously a call was made, no, we need you elsewhere, and he's decided to back off. So Kevin at the moment left to fend off against Alex with that Blade of the Ruined King as well as Brutalizer.
Yeah, he is painful right now. Yeah. And we're 18 minutes into the game. He's in a great position after that amount of time. If you check between the AD carries as well, Genja, as we always talk about, he's like the silent, deadly man in the Gambit team, because turrets go down and he kind of falls off the radar. We don't really look at him that much, and then all of a sudden you look at the CS and you're like, oh well, it's built up a 40 CS lead right now without us even noticing.
Here come SK in the top lane as they try to chase down Alex. Hercubot has his ultimate available and he is motoring, but it's going to slow him down. There's the Equalizer.
Equalizer flash away from Alex, will get knocked up there by the depth charge, slowed down by the harpoons. Can they finish him off? He's going to go back around onto Kevin. The death mark going to pop, but it won't quite be enough.
If Alex had actually stopped to fight Kevin in that engagement earlier, he probably could have killed him, because he did use that living shadow earlier in the fight. And you did touch on all of the farm that Genja has. He's got a lot more items than Candy Panda. Candy Panda and Boots 1 and Bloodthirster, comparison to Berserker's Greaves, Bloodthirster, Pickaxe, Longsword, and a Negatron Cloak. Genja is already defending against the damage that Ocelot's going to be putting down.
Yep, and also taking away these golems wherever he gets the chance from that. Candy Panda going to be trying to catch some up here, just freezing that lane as close to his turret as he actually could there, so as to not push it back and let Genja have the opportunity to even build on that lead. Hercubot choosing not to get involved there, but might have to cancel that recall because there's a lot from Gambit. There is the hook landing on towards Edward. Right. He's going to flash away, and Genja will get the kill there on towards Nif. Where is Darien going? He's got a little bit caught here. Diamond procs down to half HP as well. Can they close around? Genja coming in from the side. Candy Panda scores the goal, throwing in that chain of corruption straight down the middle of them, and now they focus around to him. They've not calculated Karthus into this one, or have they, as Darien comes around. Genja eventually picks up that kill, and it's a 2-for-0 in favor of Gambit.
SK Gaming were very poorly placed.
Edward died, of course.
Very poorly placed in that particular citrus. He got away. He got a crescendo 1-3, flashed to safety, managed to stay alive, and then Gambit, they just dove in. Equalizer's down. Darien's going to go down.
Yeah, and Darien was trying desperately not to stand on the edge of the Equalizer right there, but, well, he did great not to die in that last fight, but he ends up dying at the end of it as well. And of course, Sona did flash away at the end of that fight. So that was another engagement which Gambit, especially if they'd have not lost Darien there at the end, would have been very happy about. But Nif, that's the danger of the hook sometimes. If you hook someone in, they throw the crescendo straight on top of you, you get nuked down by a team like Gambit.
It's almost like they you have to make sure 100% that you can get that kill very, very quickly. And if Edward's reaction times were any slower, he would not have been able to stun them and he would have gone down. So it's more a case of Edward doing such a great play in that defensive statistic.
Yeah.
But what the real problem for SK was that they couldn't rally. Once Gambit dived, that was 2 versus 3 behind turrets. You had Candy Panda come from the side. He whiffed the chain of corruption because of how mobile Diamond Prox is with those boosts of swiftness and the bear stance. And because, you know, it was like a chain of events that just went poorly for SK, they lost both of those champions and that turret as well.
Well, what's coming up next here? Dragon in 40 seconds, maybe the next time that we see these two teams clashing heads. There's a hail of arrows coming down on top of Genja, but he's got red buff on right now. He's probably not too scared when he looks down and presses tabs at the items that are in there. And it looks like Gambit, are they going to try and close in, or are they going to go straight for Dragon? Well, there's a pink ward there. They're going to get rid of the vision, and they're there 20 seconds early for the Dragon spawn.
And they're there to put the vision down. So now what this does is SK immediately go Dragon, 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 reposition. And look at how Gambit are roaming. They clear out the vision. They deny any sight from SK in the pit. And until they walked over that ward, if SK had gone in for that and said, let's go challenge, let's go fight, they would have ran into members of Gambit. So now with the positional advantage and the vision advantage, Diamond Prox has started it, and they've jumped onto the spider.
Yeah, going to go in there towards Darian. He's actually going to repel away from this one. The box is down from Nif. Chain of Corruption not quite landing where they wanted it to. Diamond runs away. There's a depth charge on towards Darian. Did knock up Genja as well at the same time, but that's a lot used there for SK Gaming.
Yeah, they used 3 of their ultimates there. Requiem is available, but are they going to decide, is it going to be enough to fight? That's the question. Wall of Pain is down. SK still want to fight.
Yeah, they do want to fight. They've managed to hook Darian in towards this one. There's a brilliant crescendo going over. The bullet time doing the work as well. And SK being shredded down. Alex Itch right on top of them. Double kill coming out from Udia. They can't quite finish off Diamond either. And that will be a lot of kills coming out in the end. 3. Actually, yeah, Ocelot did just get away. I wondered if he was dead somewhere, but a slither of health. 3 for 1.
3 for 1, and Edward single-handedly winning that team fight. Another fantastically placed crescendo. Gambit run up to Baron. Baron shakes its head, and they're like, you're right, bro. And they back off. They decide they don't want to pick that fight. They were relatively low, and they're not tanky enough to survive. They have damage, but they wouldn't survive long enough, and they didn't want to risk that, especially because they were like, hang on a minute, Ocelot still has Requiem. He did not use it in that previous fight, so let's not run the risk of giving away more kills. So another great engagement from Gambit. They extend that gold lead to 7,000 gold.
Yeah, the crescendo was incredible, again, from Edward coming out there. Bullet time followed straight over the top of it as well. And SK can't afford that to happen. The 2 big ultimates coming out there from Gambit that they just can't let be placed in the right position. Either way, going to go into a bit of a slower time of things here as Darian is going to put down some damage.
And Ocelot burned his exhaust there. So Darian jumped onto Ocelot, and Ocelot panicked and used his summoner spell. So if Zed jumps on him, if Udia jumps on him, if Darian jumps on him in these upcoming fights, that ability is not available to him. So we'll need to keep a very close eye on how that pans out. Right now, Diamond Prox playing very aggressive, just moving up, putting some deep wards down as Hercubot secures his red buff and goes Spider Pig, Nautilus, and runs away.
Yeah, and the thing is, Diamond is not scared whatsoever. He's one of those players who generally you don't see much fear out of his game style anyway. But the fact that he's Udia with those boots of swiftness on as well, he's just like, I'm just running away from this. As Gambit now are putting pressure onto that middle inner turret. And look at that Diamond up on the top side. To be honest, Gambit not really positioned to go for a big fight here, though.
No, not right now, but in the top lane, it looks like they want to pick an engagement. Diamond Prox is running up there, and he's sitting very close to Hercubot. So we'll see how this pans out right now. There's 2 members of SK. Diamond Prox wants to play, and SK are pretty much saying yes or no. They're trying to defend, but they don't know how right now.
Yeah, you hear the bear roars in the background there, and that's Diamond just getting in, trying to force them away from that one as Ocelot goes low once again, and now Gambit's starting to close in. That inner turret is going to go down. That's a nice pickup for them 25 minutes in.
This is something that SK really need to stop doing. They're doing nothing. This is the problem. They're unable to defend middle because they're bouncing back and forth. Ocelot took so much damage, he was forced to recall. So because he wasn't there to defend, they lost that tower. In the top lane, Hercubot and Kevin, they haven't committed to anything. So they're trying to jump in there, and at the same time, they're losing their blue buff. Darian just stole that away.
Yeah, blue buff taken away there by Darian, as you saw down in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. There's Chain of Corruption for Candy Panda. And I don't think we've seen him hit one.
Yeah, I really hate to call him out on that one, but you are right. I think that's 3 for 3 that have missed in this particular matchup. And they're a little bit risky. They're risky chains, to be very honest with you. You know, in the middle, in the jungle here, it missed because of how mobile Diamond was. And in the previous fight, it was just at max range trying to do it. And you're not going to catch a Genja with Strut on that's running away at a mile a minute.
Well, you can see some more items coming in. We'll hold that thought because Darian here, down on the bottom, could be in a little bit of trouble. There's the ultimate coming out of Hercubot, and Darian is not quite just yet going to go down. Finished off by Ocelot in the end. That's just what we were talking about in the pre-game. But crucially in the pre-game, we talked about how Gambit usually capitalize on that one. This time they weren't in a position to.
This time, no, because the rest of the teammates were, you know, further and further back. So unfortunately, it wasn't able to pay dividends for them at this moment in time. So we'll see how they decide to rally. But yeah, that was death number 110 in the spring split for Darian, and it's just something that sort of you become accustomed to when you watch him. He does like to split push, he does like to roam. Right now, though, SK, they're grouped quite tightly, and they're actually in the middle of Gambit. So if Gambit aren't very careful about their positioning, they may get caught out.
Yeah, and there we see Edward got that Oracle on as well. See that Darian, after he died, did finish that Leandra. He's got the Abyssal sets and Sorcerer Shoes in there as well. He's going to be doing a lot of damage with that Spider. And it's obviously Diamond, the one who's going very, very tanky in this game.
And you see there, just another tentative dredge line coming out from Hercubot, trying to catch onto Genja, but again, it's very, very difficult to catch. Very shortly, a moment or two ago, Rabadon's death cap was completed for Ocelot's Carthus, so that Requiem is going to be hitting even harder, but they need to get people low before they can pick up kills. And he's currently sitting on 1, 1, and 3. They're going to need to give more gold and more items to Carthus for him to be a real threat, because right now, Repel can get him away, Turtle Stance is going to shield a lot of it, Sona's going to regenerate with those heals, and obviously not that much, but a very brave play from Gambit. They've started a 2-man Baron.
We talk about Diamond doing early dragons here on his own. This time him and Edward starting off the Baron as Alexic is going to destroy Kevin there in the top lane. And that's what happens with Zed. Unfortunately, he can absolutely destroy you, as we are going to see Diamond charging in. Wall of Pain is down, but honestly, it's not really that scary. The exhaust really not slowing Diamond down either there as he runs in and out. Happy as Larry.
Who's Larry?
Diamond Larry props.
Well, carries on chasing. Another Flash and Summoner spell burn for Ocelot. Flash and Exhaust down. It just seems like he's using this panically to defend himself, and it's not working out in his favor at all. Gambit now, with the fact that they know that they got Kevin down and they've burned those spells from Ocelot, they've started off Baron, and with this great gold lead and positional and vision advantage, this is going to be a free Baron for them.
Yeah, we saw Darian in the bottom lane as well, starting to push up there, and this time his split pushing does create that necessary diversion as the Wall of Pain goes in there and Ocelot makes the call. Baron's gone, guys. Time to defend.
And this is something that we heard in the build-up as far as the match was concerned. The players saying every match that we've seen or that we've taken part in has been very one-sided. And this is a little bit of a slower grind from Gambit, but they have been in control from the get-go. They've been making the plays, setting the kills up, making the dives, and right now Darian, he's going to get spotted by the Lantern, but I think he should be able to get away. Those skittering spiderlings.
Yep, he's going to be going down towards the Dragon, which is just a bit more extra gold in there. Will actually bring us to a 10,000 gold lead with this for Gambit right now, which, you know, 9-6 in kills. You wouldn't expect to see that in the gold, but Gambit have controlled literally everything about this game. Yes, they've lost a couple of kills here and there, and you know, Darian's died 4 times, which fits into his profile that we talked about earlier on, but it doesn't matter how many times he dies. Alex is going to go in here on towards Ocelot, and the death mark's going to kill him, and he's going to walk away.
Pop goes the Weasel. The Requiem goes down. They're going to land that onto Alex, and here comes Hercubot.
Yeah, here comes Hercubot, but is he going to be fast enough? Alex running desperately away from this one. There's the ward put down by Alex, and he's going to be clever for a little while here, but they will manage to catch in onto him. And is he going to go down? He's going to focus on towards Snip.
Wow.
And he does get the kill. That's incredible.
1 versus 3, he picks the kill up, but that's not all he did. He distracted SK for long enough for both Edward, Darian, and Diamond Frogs to push the bottom inner turret, the inhibitor turret. Genja has soloed the mid inhib turret, and they're going to get 2 inhibitors pieces off of this.
Yep, and that's the thing. Alex saying, well, you can quite happily take me down. I'll take one with me, but what have you lost after that one there? The middle turret, super low, will be finished by Genja in the end, and the bottom turret as well. And that just is such a great move from Gambit. That just shows how tactically strong they are.
Complete control and domination. And there's something I want to point out as well. Edward, a couple minutes ago, he upgraded his boots of mobility with Captain Boots. And this is something else we don't... Captain Eddie. We don't see too many Captain Boots at all in the professional scene, and I wish we did more. It grants +8 movement speed to approaching allied champions. So anyone that's following you up, and when you've got boots of mobility, you can stay ahead of them, which is very, very key. They're always going to be chasing you. In addition to that, all of your minions get +20% movement speed. So for split pushing and for those rushing down towers, you see how quickly and how effective it is.
Yeah, really great pickup there from that one. Nice to see some newer stuff coming out there for this one. Gambit starting the process of really constricting SK here with all those wards down in the jungle. To be honest, they've been doing it for quite a while right now. It's not really something too new in this one. And Diamond's got bored of this inner turret up at the top. He's going to get straight in there, tank that one down. Genja with the final blow in for that one. And it's looking all like Gambit right now. But don't forget, guys, this is a best of 3, so don't go anywhere after this one. We will be moving into game 2, whichever way this one finishes. But it does look like our second seed Gambit are well and truly in the driving seat.
Yeah, there's very, very little that Gambit can do to actually lose this match right now. With super minions in both the middle and the bottom lane, it is a matter of time before they're pushing on the Nexus turrets. As soon as that happens, you can see Gambit just... They're toying with this turret. They're walking up. Diamond Prox is going to take a couple of turret hits that do nothing to him right now. And then they're just going to start shoving down this turret. They need Genja to get in there. What you can see right now, though, is in the middle there, Alex is coming in from behind. He's actually pushing down the minion waves himself. And he can blow up anybody he wants to. He can pop them with that death mark. They do hook Edward, but it's just a fight. Let's see.
Well, they hook Edward there. We see the bullet time. A great crescendo on the backside. Nif is going to go down for this. Candy Panda going low. The death mark's on him. He's not escaping that one. He will fall. Equalizer from Kevin. They won't care too much about that. It's a double kill for Alex. Here comes the Requiem though. Darian is going to die, and also Edward died from that one, but the super minions are there. The Nexus turret's already going down. The Nexus will follow, and Gambit going to pick up game number 1 here in our second semi-final of the LCS Europe Spring Playoffs.
10 turrets to 1. Gambit were in control from the very, very first kill on the board, and they did not relent it. They deserved win, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, really strong performance, and that sets them up nicely in this best of 3. We'll see if SK can turn things around coming forward. You can see their headsets off for at least some of the players. A very solemn-looking SK. Not much communication going on between them right now. Of course, they do have a 5-minute pause to talk things through, something that they're gonna have to do before they get into match number 2 against Gambit. We're gonna go over, though, to Demon and Jason on the analysis desk to break down everything from game 1.
Yeah, well, not a lot to break down, really. That was absolute dominant performance. And, you know, Gambit proving really why they are the number 2 seed. Fnatic have proved why they're number 1. They took down Evil Geniuses earlier on today. And Gambit just so strong in that game. 10 turrets to 1. Total domination across the board. And Alex Ich, what a man. What a machine. He just pulled the entire team towards him and took 2 people down.
Yes, he did. I mean, in Gambit, they just dominate in terms of, you know, Quickshot mentioning they like to control objectives. They do it probably the best in all of teams of Europe. They got 4 Dragons, 1 Baron in the entire game. SK didn't get any objectives in that sense. And it was just a phenomenal play out of every single member. They got a lot of comfort champions. You know, Darren on his Elise, even had Diamond on Udyr, which, you know, we could say, honestly, is a comfort champion of him. And, of course, Alex, Genja, and Edward all on their favorite champions as well. It was a very one-sided game. It really was.
Very, very one-sided game. We do have a replay, though, and really it was all about that man in the middle. You know, Alex Ich, as I mentioned, the fact that he pulled so many members towards him just opened up the entire base of SK, and Gambit were just like, well, what are they doing? I don't think they just looked a little bit confused and just said, well, okay, we'll take your base out.
That's the problem with a Fed Zed. Like, you have to send more than one person after him to really go for the kill. And we'll go ahead and show you it again. I mean, we had Quickshot mention it. You know, when Darren usually goes onto a side lane, you have Gambit make a play off of him if he ends up dying. Well, they did the same thing before Alex's time. So let's get the replay on your screen. I'm going to show you exactly where, you know, everyone is on the map. Just to give you an idea, is that this is before the kill happens onto Asap, but you have Genja pushing the mid lane. You have Diamond and Edward over here, over towards blue buff, and you have Darren already pushing the bottom lane. So we get the replay showing you, as you see, the rest of SK, I mean, 3 members just sitting here at the red buff. They didn't really expect Alex to be there. And of course, as the fight does go on, Asap just gets
melted.
He gets deaded, is the term I'm going to use. And then Alex just runs away. You can see the Requiem come out as, you know, also assume they'd be able to pick up this kill, which, you know, eventually they do, but, you know, Alex is going to end up being able to pick up the kill onto Nif. I'm going to pause it right here just to show you. They're still pushing up. They have this bottom turret right here to take down. You had Genja pretty much 1v1ing Kevin right here, and look at his items. Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, Last Whisper, even a Negatron Cloak. There's nothing Kevin could do about it. And I guess we can show you in slow motion exactly how quick Nif really dies here, because it was very, very quick. I didn't even notice it, to be honest.
Yeah, he gets completely caught out. Look at that. Just boop, boop, boop. 1, 2, 3.
Just look at that.
And all that while Candy Panda and Hercubot were trying the best to beat on him, and he just couldn't do anything about it and died. And then straight away you see the inhibitors go down. So fantastic, fantastic performance there from Gambit Gaming in the first match of the best of 3 series. Of course, this is a $100,000 tournament. They are playing to get in towards that final, the final against Fnatic, as they are in there ready and waiting. Will we see El Clasico? SK Gaming are going to have to go some way to try and get into that, but Gambit looking so strong. What are they going to do to turn this one around? I mean, that was a dominant performance. I've said it before, and even Ocelot said it himself. I remember at the World Finals Season 2, his Karthus play, he only ever picks it for the team. It was a team's choice. Obviously, he was the man picking the team, but I just don't feel he can make the plays when he's on Karthus.
The thing is, they had a phenomenal team comp for this fight, or for the entire game, but the problem was they just got set so far behind. Like, their entire idea was to team fight.
Yeah.
But because Gambit got so far ahead, any kind of synergy of composition that SK had just didn't mean anything. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I mean, obviously, the thing with Karthus is you're either picking up the Requiem kills as everybody else is getting the kills. They're fighting. You can be off elsewhere, split pushing, doing whatever. Right. But it just didn't work out that way. I mean, if you look at the scores itself, actually, Alex Inch did only end up, he was 6-3-4. He was 4-3-4 at that point. He picked up 2 kills toward the ends, which was not spectacular, but the job he did for the team was what counted.
And also, I mean, there's also one thing to mention is that usually when we see Karthuses, they have a lot of farm as in terms of their counter or their opponent. But Alex kept up the entire time, if not ahead at some points, and that kind of shows that maybe, you know, maybe Ocelot should have been farming Wraiths a little bit more. I mean, I don't want to criticize his gameplay too much, or maybe Alex was just doing a phenomenal job at controlling Wraith camps. It was just really, it's something you normally don't see with a Karthus.
And we also need to talk about the AD carries, because I believe Joe mentioned it during the commentary. Those chain of corruptions, they were not landing from Candy Panda.
I actually talked to him about that, and I talked to the test about it, I talked to Candy, and they said, it's a lot harder to hit than you think.
It is definitely, yeah. But let's not forget.
If you're going to pick Varus, though, you have to hit those ultimates. Like hitting an Asher, you have to hit it if you want to win the fights, and it was unfortunate you couldn't hit him this time. Maybe if they pick him up again, you'll be able to hit it in the next game.
And of course, we saw the Edward Genja combo, the crescendo comes across, the bullet time comes across, everything timed to perfection for that support lane.
I almost forgot about the skin he was using, and then I just remembered the picture that was photoshopped with him, and I was just like, oh, my eyes. But anyways, yeah, his Sono, he started off on it back in the Empire days, or well, in Moscow 5 days, and he shows how good he was then. He shows how good he still is today on it. Those crescendos so spot on. It just completely caught SK.
And how do we compare, say, Genja's misfortune? The fact that he's really only the only person that's picking that champion away. You know, everybody else has been scrambling to get Varus, and he's quite happy to go misfortune every time.
I think I remember when we cast him last week, I said something like he had 8 or 9 misfortune games and won on like 8 of them.
Yeah.
Like he won every single game except like 1. That just shows you how good he's on misfortune. I mean, why not? It works, like, because he likes the whole caster idea behind it, I guess, where you just sit back at the bullet times, which are always so perfect from him.
Yeah.
And then you have the double Fs. You're such a lane bully as well. Maybe it just fits his style.
Seems to be working for Gambit. How will SK respond? We will find out shortly. We're going to go to a break right now, though. It will be SK Gaming versus Gambit coming up after this.